They called him, just the janitor. That was the whisper that floated through the marble halls of the corporate building every morning as he pushed his squeaky cart, mop in one hand, and worn gloves on the other. To most employees, he was invisible, just another shadow blending into the background. Nobody cared about his story, nobody asked why his shoulders carried more weight than a mop could ever explain. But all of that changed the day he defended the CEO, and later, turned a trial upside down in front of a courtroom packed with doubters. He was known simply as Mr. Daniel, a quiet middle-aged man with tired eyes that seemed to hide decades of battles no one ever asked about. Every morning, he'd nod politely, sweep the floors, and leave without making a sound. But there was a time, long ago, when Daniel wore a uniform, not the faded blue janitor suit, but one with medals and honor stitched to its chest. Life had taken its toll, stripping him of recognition and leaving him with scars, both on his body and his pride. The CEO of the company, Mr. Thompson, hardly noticed him either. He was too busy with board meetings, business deals, and investors' demands. Yet fate works in strange ways. One evening, when most employees had gone home and the office lights were dim, Daniel was sweeping the top floor near the CEO's office. That's when he heard raised voices. He paused, heart tightening as instincts from his old life kicked in. Inside, two men had cornered Mr. Thompson, angry, desperate, threatening. No one saw Daniel step in. No one expected him to. But when one of the men lunged at the CEO, Daniel moved with a speed that shocked even himself. In seconds, the would-be attackers were on the ground, disarmed by nothing more than his bare hands and sharp instincts. The CEO, trembling, looked at him with disbelief. "You're just the janitor," he whispered, still trying to process what had just happened. Daniel didn't answer. He only extended his hand, steady and firm, to help the man stand. For the first time, the CEO saw him, really saw him. The incident shook the company. The media got wind of it, and within days, the narrative spread, CEO saved by janitor. Cameras flashed, reporters demanded interviews, and the world was suddenly hungry for the story of the man they had once ignored. But not everyone was happy. Those who had planned the attack weren't just petty criminals, they were connected, powerful, and determined to silence both Daniel and the CEO. When the trial began, the attacker's lawyers painted Daniel as unreliable, a bitter old man with a troubled past, someone who couldn't be trusted. They dug into his history, exposing struggles with PTSD, financial hardships, and the loss of his family. Each revelation hurt, but Daniel stood tall. He had nothing left to lose, except his integrity. As the courtroom buzzed with tension, Daniel was called to the stand. His rough hands gripped the wood, his voice low but unwavering as he recounted the night he defended the CEO. He didn't embellish, didn't dramatize, he simply told the truth, every painful detail, every instinct that had driven him to act. At one point, his voice cracked, not from fear, but from the weight of years spent unseen. "I may be just a janitor to most of you," he said, his gaze sweeping the room, "but I am also a father, a veteran, and a man who knows right from wrong. When I saw a life in danger, I did what any decent human being should do." The silence that followed was heavy. Even the judge leaned forward, listening not to a janitor, but to a man who had carried burdens most could never imagine. Then came the twist no one expected. Daniel revealed evidence, security footage he had quietly saved before it could be erased. It showed the attackers breaking in, planning their ambush. The courtroom erupted. The lawyers tried to recover, but it was too late. The truth was undeniable, and the trial shifted in an instant. The men who had mocked Daniel were suddenly powerless, exposed before the world. When the verdict was announced, Daniel didn't smile, didn't celebrate. He simply bowed his head, whispering a quiet prayer for strength. The CEO, tears in his eyes, approached him and hugged him like a brother. In that moment, Daniel was no longer just the janitor. He was the man who saved a life, the man who carried honor into a world that had forgotten what it meant. News outlets praised him, social media exploded with admiration, and offers poured in for him to tell his story. But Daniel returned to work the next day, pushing his cart with the same quiet dignity. When people looked at him now, though, they saw more than a uniform. They saw resilience, courage, and the reminder that true worth isn't measured by titles, but by actions.